This is Numbers Man, the episode This Week in Economics on the 13th of September 2015. And a good day. We are coming to you today on Sunday. We normally do this recording on Friday or early Friday morning or Friday, but nonetheless we've changed over a bit here so we can move right along. From Reuters, the Fed will have its meeting this week, I should say, take center stage, eclipsing data from China and other grim inflation readings from the Eurozone, a rate decision in Japan and in Switzerland. Guessing what the Fed hike rates on Thursday, off for a later date, perhaps December, are a futile exercise, something of a futile exercise, because even the rate setting appears to be wavering, and the decision will probably come down to the wire. An unexpected drop in the jobless rate. The jobless rate in the U.S. is at 5.1, but still there are a few million people out there, and an upward revision in the second quarter growth, 3.7, moving towards that benchmark of 4%. Calls for a hike, and this is a mistake in our opinion, as the labor market tightens and utilization of its best level since the global financial crisis. A way of calling it the Depression. Yet, futures only price a 24% chance of a rate hike. As emerging markets, particularly China, struggle, inflation remains benign, and some notable Fed watchers like Larry Summers, you remember Dr. Larry Summers, an advisor to both Bill Clinton and President Barack Obama. And he's quoted as saying, "My guess is that the committee is also confused about what the right direction is, and as a result, they're waiting to the last minute with making a decision." And that is, that's Tom Suk, the chief international economist at Deutsche Bank. Oh, wait a minute, let me get him here. Said the core of this approach is that market expectations become unanchored, but they may view this as a small cost relative to sending strong signals ahead of the meeting, where there seems to be a limited consensus among rate-setting members. The China downturn, and we have talked about it, and it's been in the news, is a key worry. A drop of 14% drop in Chinese imports from last year, the 10th straight monthly drop, along with annual factory gate deflation of almost 9%, does not help rate hike arguments. Data on today showed the Chinese investment and factory output missed the forecast in August, raising the chances that deferred economic growth will Q3 economic growth will drop 7% for the first time since the Depression. Factory output rose 6.1%, not shabby at all, last month from a year earlier, and less than 6.4% expected, but up from 6% in July. In Europe, key items will be final in August Eurozone inflation data, and that'll be due out Wednesday. So a lot of data we'll have next week. Price growth has seen holding steady at 0.2%, far off the target of 2% there, and that's Mario Draghi, the ECB president. Are the central banks losing credibility? Primary results from our survey. This is Reuters survey. 60% of investors believe so. RBS has said in a note to clients. Yet we are stuck in the world where central bankers' words will determine investment decisions, often beyond fundamental reasoning. Bank of Japan announced the rate decision on on Tuesday, and is expected to offer a break of view on overseas economies. May lower its assessment of the country's exports next week. That was told that the Swiss National Bank is also expected to keep policy steady, but markets expect the bank to say that it was ready to cut the deposit rate even further into negative territory if necessary, and the reason basically for this is the economies are not performing very well across of the globe. That is a fact, and investors. We'll talk a little more about that as we get to the discussion of price per barrel of oil, but basically investors live in a different world from where the central banks and the actual economic data rest. So let's give these key rates here. These are Fed rates. The 30-year fixed is at 3.64. It looks like here. Today and 1 month ago was at 360. The 15-year at 2 is at 293. A little hard to read here. And the 1 month fix, this is the 15, was at 3.02. The 10-year fix at again at 289 at 2.89%, and a month ago it was at 2.54%. The 30-year fixed refinanced was at 3.95. A month ago it was at 4.03%. The 15-year refinance at 3.08. It was a month ago. It was at 3.14. And let's see what else we got here. The jumbo, the 30-year fixed jumbo at 4.29%, and it was that way 1 month ago. So in other words, it has not changed as to where it was. Let me just get a few other little things from Reuters here, and hopefully Reuters will cooperate with us. Okay. Now this is something that was a little bit troubling here. We looked at earlier. China unveils a detail of a state firm reforms as a growth sputters. Now we don't see this as an answer. This is on Sunday. It would restructure its state-owned enterprises called SOEs, including a partial privatization, as data points to a cooling in the world's second economy. Guidelines jointly issued by the Communist Party Central Committee and the State Council. China's cabinet includes plans to clean up and integrate some state firms. That is from the Xinhua news agency. Reform the underpinning of state-owned enterprise is one of China's most pressing needs, but if not handled well, the restructuring could lead, of course, to hundreds of thousands of redundancies, which would bring about social instability. Zhuang said the plan includes introducing mixed ownership by bringing in private investment, and decision results were expected by 2020. That's 5 years away. In the British election, of the new Labour Party leader, Mr. Cameron, Jeffrey, I get him in a minute here. I call him actually Jeffrey, one of the writers in the early 19th century, Bentham. Jeremy, I'm sorry, not Jerry, Jeremy Bentham, but it's not Jeremy Bentham. He is the new Labour Party leader, And I'll get that for you in a minute when I look at his name. The government will not force mixed ownership, nor will it set a timetable there to the National Health Service. And right at the present time, they have a mixture in their National Health Service in the United Kingdom of public and some private. And the new leader of the Labour Party would like to get rid of that. Our take is that public enterprises are surely public enterprises. When you try to mix public and private enterprises together, that is a total mismatch, and China will discover the same situation. Partial privatization, he added, would add establish checks and balances, incentive systems at state firms. China's government manages 111 enterprises under the State-Owned Asset Supervision and Administration Commission. Local governments own and manage around 25,000 of these, and they employ 7.5 million workers. State firms would be allowed to bring in various investors to help diversify share ownership, and more firms would be encouraged to restructure to pave the way for stock listings. And this is one of the weaknesses that you have in industrial capitalist systems, the whole idea of markets. Markets in themselves are nothing more than pure speculation. And much of the activity is obviously based upon serendipity. And in the commodities markets, many things go into where commodities are, and it's not a pure pricing of the raw material. It is on a lot of speculation. And speculation or risks itself can come back to harm a nation's financial stability, as we saw in the Depression. So these are things that have to be looked out for there. But all kinds of schemes are tried. The SEOs will divide it into commercial and public welfare-related businesses during the reform process. Gas, oil, electricity, railways, telecommunication were identified as sectors that could be suitable for limited non-state investment. Now, many countries have tried that. Britain, when they privatized their railways, an absolute mistake. Electricity and telecommunications, we're seeing in the U.S. more and more with the internet and other things, that those kinds of enterprises should be in the hands of the government on behalf of the people. And the reason for that is that people that argue that these various monopoly operations, Verizon, etc., AT&T, Comcast, are now so big. And that used to be the argument over the old Adam Smith boys and girls, that monopolies were the enemy of quote-unquote free enterprise. Well, monopolies are a natural outcome, and Smith would roll over his grave if he saw the monopolies today, because he was basically in a pre-industrial age, you could say a very ragged industrial age, when he was writing. Growth fixed in asset investments, a critical economic driver, slowed to 10.9% in the first 8 months of 2015. The weakest pace in 15 years. That's from the National Bureau of Statistics also came out today. Analysts said Reuters had forecast an 11.1% rise compared with 11.2% in January to July. Factory output rose weaker than expected at 6.1% in August. Markets had expected a 6.4%, up from 6%. 6%, given what the global conditions is actually a very good pace. Annual growth in real estate investment, something that's gotten out of control in China, cooled, and it should have cooled to 3.5% in the first 8 months, the weakest since 2009, and 4.3%. Real estate speculation in China, particularly in the largest cities, Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen, and various other cities, have caused rises in not only property value for people, but rise in rents for ordinary people and displacement. And That is something the Chinese government should not tolerate. Retail